Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Wimacher, and joining me is Jason Garfield.
Thank you, Mike, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WJF 7, the 7th World Juggling Federation series of competitions. You can see all the competitors there warming up in the competition arena, so while we await the start of the first event, let's take a look at how this competition will be scored. Now, we have an A jury and a B jury. Now, the A jury validates the moves. They make sure that the competitors are doing what they planned on doing as they filled out in their routine forms. They confirm the connections, connecting more than one move together at a time, and they audit the required number of catches per move. The B jury takes deductions for uneven and sloppy patterns, unintentional moving of the feet, collisions, drops, and falling down, and that does happen sometimes.
We have 3 categories tonight for the short programs: balls, rings, and clubs, all of which are limited to 5 objects per category. We're kicking off the first event with Lauge Benjaminson from Denmark.
Now you're going to want to look out here for his 360s. He has extremely fast 360s. That's what he's known for. And looks like Lauge's ready.
He's ready to go.
Okay.
With the look he's got, looks like the Justin Bieber possibly of the World Juggling Federation.
With faster spins, I'm sure. I haven't seen Justin Bieber spin, but I can tell you right now, Lauge's faster. There's a multiplex right up there into a 6x4 5-up 360. Yeah, he's got a lot of connections here with side swaps and 360s. There's 720 under a 3-up side swap connection. So just look at that connection right into it. That's a shower pattern, high-low throws. One hand doing all the throwing, the other hand doing all the catching.
And right now, if you look at his footwork, he's doing a very good job of staying inside the circle, and that's showing that his throws are actually being done very correctly. When you see them start moving farther and farther outside the circle, as you told me, Jason, that's when you start getting inaccurate throws.
Right, and he is getting close to the edge of the circle there. Even though he didn't leave the circle, there are still deductions for walking from the center, and there he is on the line there. So you can really tell, although he's not dropping, these throws aren't perfect, but you know, these are really hard throws, and I think those deductions are minimal. When you start dropping, that's when you're going to see the deductions add up. And look at that. That's a perfect, clean routine. We'd rather see some foot movements there than some drops without moving the feet, of course. But that was really amazing.
Lauge Benjaminsen from Denmark. A lot of spinning going on there. Now, is that the judges are looking for the dynamic tricks, or are they looking more for the combination of dynamic and technical put together to really much have the perfect routine?
They're looking mainly for a nice collection of all the object skill sets connected together. The main thing that they look for, and this is where the bonus points really add up, is when you connect moves together, difficult move to difficult move, because that demonstrates that you didn't have to go back into the basic pattern, and you had complete control over both of those moves to be able to connect them together.
So they're really looking for the ability to technically chain those tricks together without having a stopping throw or a correction throw in between.
Exactly, right.
That was Lauge Benjaminson with a score of 9.3.
9.3 for Lauge Benjaminson. So
it's going to be hard to beat.
I was going to say, does that put a lot of pressure on the competitors to follow, knowing that he set the bar so high in that first routine?
That definitely can play a factor. You are at an advantage going on first. You're setting the bar there, and now David knows that he's got to do better than the 9.3.
So David Ferman now, that's his short program.
Jacksonville, Florida, 17 years old. And David juggles different balls. You probably can't tell, but those balls are filled with sand. Close up, you can hear them shaking.
All right, so David's now ready to go after a small warm-up period.
Starting off with a high side swap, 2 4s on the bottom, we go to 9. Going into, the little collision there, yeah.
It looked like he was trying to build up for something pretty big right there.
Yeah. Seems like he's almost, he's having some collisions there. Almost holding on to them a little bit too long. You can see all the stumbling after the 360. Not smooth. Had a couple of aborts. But looks like he's got control over it now.
Well, after seeing what Lauge did the last time, you know, the competition obviously has increased, and the pressure immediately gets put on you when you see someone post a score like that right away.
Yeah, you almost hope that, well, obviously you hope people do worse than you, but it can make you feel better about yourself if you go out there and know that you don't have the pressure of a perfect routine. I mean, right out of the gate, you know, you got Lauge Benjamin setting the bar so high.
David has been able to pull off a couple of 360s here in this routine. You can see the intensity on their face.
Yeah.
It's almost controlled chaos.
This, we would, at best, they could hope for controlled chaos. You don't want on the floor chaos.
Right.
The 1 high 4 low 5-up 360. The high ball staying up while you do a 360 under the low 4 balls.
David Ferman. So David Ferman, you got to give him credit right there. He fought back through it, had a little bit of difficulty in the middle of that routine, but really bounced back nicely and ended it with a couple of excellent tricks chained together.
Did end strong, yeah. And there's that 5-up 360 connection into 7-4-4. That 5-up 360 was in the 6x4 pattern. There's 2 connected 3-up 360s.
And the impressive part about that was the footwork. He pretty much almost stayed in the exact same place throughout that entire chain, which is going to give him some extra points from the judges, I would imagine.
Well, they just won't be taken away from him.
Yeah, okay.
He didn't get any more, but he didn't lose as much as he could have lost.
8.8.
So 8.8 for David Ferman. Not enough to overtake Lauge Benjaminson, who, like we talked about in that first routine, really set the bar very high.
But still not a bad score. A good contender for second, maybe. Jack Denger is really amazing, especially at his age. He is 14 years old. He just won the WJF 7 Club Incentive Program, juggled 7 clubs, which you'll see later in the club competition program. Juggled 7 clubs for 50 catches. I know that doesn't mean anything to anyone out there now, but that's really a big deal in juggling. Very few jugglers juggle 7 clubs. So multiplex 5-up 360 connected to, well, a drop, but you'll probably see that connection again here. 6x4, 5-up 360 into 4x6. It's just an inverted version of that pattern where the directions and heights switch.
Switching up the patterns in which he throws as well.
Doing some shower connections and 360s. He's not dropping, but there are deductions for those aborts when it's clear that he had to pull it in because it wasn't set up right. There's a nice high, middle, low shower stack.
Now, is it better to stop like that? Do you get less of a deduction?
It's always better to stop than to drop, yeah. And it's always better to drop than to fall down.
Right.
And that's just good advice in life.
So the 14-year-old from Indiana.
And, you know, they have 2 minutes to get these 15 moves in. And if you're perfect, you can get it done in under a minute. So that 2 minutes should make them relax. Jugglers generally rush, and that's where you see a lot of the mistakes come in. When they try to throw faster than the pattern will allow. I mean, gravity can't speed up for you. So you have to really just relax and not feel like you have to get, you know, everything done as quickly as possible. You'll notice some of them will stop in between and they'll recoup and then they'll start again. There's no deductions for that. It's just when it's an obvious abort, something went wrong and you stop, and that's when you get into the deductions.
Now, in the short program, there's a certain number of tricks that they have to perform.
They can do up to 15.
Okay.
They can choose to do less, but then they're not maximizing their score.
So very similar to something from the Olympics, as far as, you know, Olympic diving or something like that.
Exactly.
With a score of 7.5.
So
7.5. So we've got first, second, and third now in the order they came out.
Next up in advanced balls, Doug Sayers.
Now, Doug Sayers, you'll be seeing a lot of him this evening. Doug Sayers, a very accomplished juggler. You will see him in the short programs. You'll also see him in MLC later on this evening, which is a very dynamic style of juggling. But as you can see right now, Doug Sayers accomplished in many different disciplines.
Yeah, he's really well versed. What you just saw right there was a 5-up 360 connected to back crosses, which is incredibly difficult to connect such different arm positions together and incorporating a 360. That was just the warm-up, but let's see. I think that's what he's going to do early on in the routine. Now, Doug has some very confusing side swaps. I'm not even going to pretend to know what they are, but there's you can figure out what moves are possible just by writing it on paper and knowing the mathematical formula for that, and I think that's what he did, and then he tests it out later, and then it's just a matter of developing the skill to execute it. There's a 3-up 720 connected to, I believe that was a 645 or 744.
What I've noticed in Doug's routine more so than any of the other competitors thus far is the changing of the patterns that he is throwing the ball. He's using, you know, the 2-up at one time, combining that with the spins.
Right, yeah, combining that. That's what Doug does, is he combines these, like this side swap right here, with a 360. He's embedded a 360 within the side swap. So the side swap's not done while he's spinning around, finishes up at the end when he comes around. You just pull it off. That's incredibly difficult because he's almost throwing in a counterintuitive manner. You know, like right there, the high throw is normally the one that's supposed to come down first, but he's fitting in low throws under the high throw. And going there for a 2-stage 5-up 720. 2 stages where you stop in between to catch a couple of the balls, yeah, and then spin around again and then get the remaining 3. There's that, he was going for that. He got that perfect in the warm-up. 5-up 360 into back crosses. But back crosses are rarely done by any of the competitors. Doug's one of the best ones that I've seen at back crosses. He keeps that running longer than anybody I've seen, and you really have to worry about hitting your head with those back crosses.
Well, Jason, very well done there by Doug Sayers. Because you were talking earlier, Jason, yesterday when we were talking before the event, you were talking about how sometimes in the warm-ups, they're actually able to pull off the feats because the pressure isn't on there for the actual short program starting.
Right. Yeah, they will sometimes do better in the warm-up than they do in the actual routine. He ended that back cross sequence. He wasn't done with the back cross sequence. He ended with a 3-up 360 in back crosses and out of back crosses.
We're seeing the replay right now of Doug Sayers. The thing about Doug that I noticed, he combines the technical with the dynamic. Where, with Lauge, Benjaminson, it was a lot of dynamic tricks and very technical as well, but you can tell the different patterns with Doug Sayers. Like I said, the different way he changes up the delivery.
Right, yeah, it's a different style, definitely. Yes. Different collection of moves. And you're going to get that in juggling. There's endless possibilities. I mean, you can invent new moves as you're practicing. An accident can actually turn into a difficult move. Vova Galchenko, one of the best, if not the best, club juggler in the world. He could always juggle balls, but he never really, it never really was his strength. And over the past few years, he's become an advanced competitor in the ball competition. You won't see some of the stuff that Lauge was doing. You won't see some of the stuff that Doug was doing. You'll see some of the standard traditional moves with Vova. Hopefully done very well, though. And I did say hopefully, but we're early on in the routine here. Yeah.
Vova is very controlled too. Something that you brought up to me, Jason, that as an untrained eye I never would have noticed is the footwork. And that really, like we said, if you can see someone staying in one place, that means that their throws are right on target and they don't have any inaccurate throws.
He has had excellent training, but to combat that, he has horrible stage fright. And all of these drops, it's important to understand that this does not mean that they are not qualified to compete, doesn't mean that they're bad jugglers. There's two elements in competing, obviously, as anyone who's competed in anything or really performed knows. There's the ability to do it in practice, and then there's the ability to do it on demand in front of an audience and really the world watching here. And for Vova, that sometimes translates into drops.
And this is a big thing that we didn't mention off the top, but this is the first time that this event is being brought to you on live television thanks to ESPN3.
Exactly, yeah. So this is a lot of pressure on the competitors.
Amped up for the first time. You really want to go out there and show your best with the entire world watching. And sometimes the nerves can get the best of you. But like you said, clubs is more Vova's thing.
Right.
So maybe get the nerves out early with the balls competition. When he comes back to the clubs, we'll maybe see him tear it up.
Yeah, he definitely tears it up with clubs.
See who we play.
His shower sequence here with a 360 in there. I think he did end strong. He had some bumps just like Ferman in the beginning.
Yeah, and once again, like we talked about with Lauge Benjaminson coming out so quickly and really setting the bar, I think that really amped up the pressure on the rest of these competitors.
Vova Galchenko with a score of 8.1.
So Galchenko gets an 8.1. So Doug Sayers finishes first. He is the champion in the World Juggling Federation 5-ball short program. I know what you're thinking. Juggling has more balls than any other sport, and you're right. In most sports, the athletes have trouble controlling just one ball. But up next, we're moving on to the second object seal category in the WJF ring short program. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the 2011 World Juggling Federation short programs. We are continuing with the WJF 5-ring short program.
Lauge Benjaminson up again. Got to be pretty confident at this point. Can do no wrong.
Trying to add another title. He came out strong.
And Lauge is going for the overall championship. Now, the overall championship is comprises 25 different competitions. We're just watching a few of them here today, but this has been going on all week, and that's something else to keep in mind is that these competitors have been juggling for 6 days straight. This is the tail end of a 6-day convention. This is the main event for them. Starting off with 5-ring full reverse throws. That's where you turn the rings flat to the front as you see them there, only facing front.
Once again,
more 360s.
Yeah, the spins he's known for.
Yep. a little bit of error there. You notice one of the rings ended up around his arm almost like a bracelet, so that's an obvious error there.
This is the most difficult discipline, too, you told me, Jason, because, I mean, the fact that those rings can pretty much sometimes go anywhere they want. You were talking about that every once in a while.
They almost have a mind of their own, and they do not like to be juggled. So if you give them the opportunity to drop, they will roll as far away to the farthest corner of the room from where you are as possible. They just seem to have some sort of gravitational pull toward wherever you're not. And they're very difficult to control in the air as well. It's a completely different kind of catching technique from balls, and it requires an even more delicate touch. You know, they're so light; they weigh almost nothing. So you know, even lighter than a frisbee. So you know, and you're controlling 5 of them at a time, and you know, determining how much pressure to put on those rings to get them to go higher up in the air. You know, you're combining high throws with low throws. It's almost like you know, if you're lifting different weighted objects with different hands. You know, it just messes with your mind. You really have to, you know what you're doing. You have to know which ones are going to be the high throws, and then instantly switch for less pressure to be added to it, less force.
And you even mentioned, too, the difficulty even sometimes in catching the rings. You've said in some competitions, competitors have been known to get a cut or 2 on their hand from those rings.
They are one of the more damaging props to juggle as well. You can cut up all, you know, your fingernails definitely, and then you can get cuts in the grooves of your hands, and then you won't be able to juggle anything for weeks.
So Lauge Benjaminson.
A nice connection from a side swap to a 744, side swap 360 to 744.
This time around didn't come out with quite as great routine as he did the first time around when we had the ball short program. He really set the standard. Now there may be an opening for the competitors to follow him.
Could be, although that is some of the best ring juggling that is out there, and I don't know if the other competitors can do much better than that. I mean, we only have 3 ring competitors. They just don't like rings. We like the way they look, but to juggle them is not as much fun.
Benjaminson with a score of 7.7.
So 7.7 for Benjaminson.
That leaves some space.
The thing with Benjaminson, too, is you can tell he's a showman. You can tell that he is ready for this type of stage. He's just got that swagger to him. He's very confident in his abilities.
I think he enjoys it more than anybody else here. He's definitely having fun with it, and sure, the nerves are playing a factor, but like I said, these competitors have been training all year for this. This is the one time of the year where they all get together. They're very excited about this. That's why they've been juggling nonstop, almost 24 hours a day. And you know, I don't know of any other sport where you're training seriously for it and you wear yourself out because you're having so much fun before you actually compete.
Well, every time I've come in this week to kind of see, you know, the different events leading up to this final here, every time you walk in, there's always some juggling going on, and that's how much fun this is for the competitors, but also how serious they take it as well.
Exactly. Bova's doing pretty good so far. I don't think he's had any drops. He's had some nice 360 connections, 3 up 180 connected to 744. Those high throws there are the 7s. Connected to a 5 up 360 that was staggered. He was going into 6x4 with that. He threw a couple of throws out of the right hand higher to modify the pattern so that he could go into this pattern here. He's just moving on though with a 3 up 360 out of that and back in.
One thing I noticed about Galchenko too, we mentioned earlier this week, he likes to use kind of every part of that circle and face different directions just to kind of give a different look to the audience as well.
When jugglers perform rings or do rings in a competition, for the most part, they look better from the side. However, the judges really would prefer to see the pattern from the front because that's where you can see all the errors. And that's where you can see the pattern switches. I mean, from the side, 6x4 just looks like the same as 4x6. You know, they're the same height differential.
So Galchenko bounces back in a big way.
I would say that might be Benjaminson. I think there were less errors in there, and the technique was high enough.
And you can tell maybe Galchenko got a little bit of the nerves out of the way, like we talked about. He said on the big stage, he was sometimes a little bit of performance anxiety, but that time did not look at all. He had maybe a couple minor little deductions there, but overall, very well done routine by Vova Galchenko. And this isn't even his best discipline.
No, this is his worst actually. Maybe there's less pressure on him because he doesn't care too much about rings.
Our final competitor in the advanced short program for rings is Doug Sayers.
So like we said, Doug Sayers is going to be a very busy man here tonight.
At every event. He's going for the overall championship as well. So although he may not win some of these, the score all adds up. So we will know at the end of tonight who won the overall championship. Look at that, 5 up 360 into pancake throws. We saw those with 3 rings in the demonstration earlier. With 5 rings, it's just crazy. Very few people can control that.
And if he pulls it off, he'd be the first competitor so far in these finals that we've seen incorporate the pancake throw.
Right, yeah. Everyone stays away from the pancakes. They are scary. There they go. Let's see if he can control it for a qualifying run. I think he's made it. He made the minimum qualifying number of throws, which is 10. In general, a qualification is twice the number of catches as objects being juggled. So if you're juggling 5 objects, you have to make 10 catches to qualify it. That's when the move is valid for points. 5 up 360 into 744. That's called a half shower. That's where one throw is facing the front, going over the top, and he connects that right to 6x4. Now, see right here from our angle, we can't tell if that's 6x4 or 4x6, but we know it's a side swap, and they're both worth the same points. So the judges have to make sure that they don't repeat moves more than once. You can't do the same move more than one time unless it's connected to another move, and then the limit is 2.
And Sayers, nice little flourish.
Pancake flip neck catch. Starting with the reverse throws that Lauge attempted but didn't get. Doug is just doing it perfectly right there.
Yeah,
with a 3 up 360 back into the, wow, that's amazing.
A lot of different throws there by Sayers.
He's got a full routine here.
I was going to say, showing the versatility of how the rings can be thrown and caught, and as well as the pattern.
360 into pancakes. He must have done a 3 up 360 into pancakes earlier, because otherwise that would have been the exact same connection twice. Look at the flat throws. That is even more difficult than the pancake throws. To control those, I don't even know the. Oh, and he's doing he's doing a catch on the head, just like he did with the pancakes with the flats. That's first place right there. I gotta say, I'm gonna call it right now. I'm gonna save the judges the time. That is first place.
The 360s and the different styles of throwing and catching there in that routine was just amazing there by Sayers. Once again, a very technical juggler. He was the only one to attempt the pancakes, and then he does the flats as well. So very impressive routine by Sayers.
And lots of connections. I mean, I think he may have had connection sequences that lasted up to 3 or 4 moves. A lot of times you see connections of just 2 moves together, then you reestablish the pattern or you stop. But
Sayers with a score of 9.8.
9.8 by Doug Sayers. And that, like you called it, Jason, you said hands down you'd save the judges the trouble. Doug Sayers is your champion when it comes to the short program rings. So that is the final result, with Doug Sayers taking home first place. When we come back, the most difficult object skill category, clubs. The ultimate level of juggling ability is coming up next in the WJF Club short program. Welcome back to the 2011 World Juggling Federation short programs. We are continuing with our final event. This is the 5-club short program.
This is Jack Denger starting off the 5-club short program. And again, he is 14 years old in the advanced competitions. Look at that, flat throws with 5 clubs. You saw the flats earlier with 3 clubs. It's an entirely different story once you start doing it with 5. 5-club back crosses. At his age, I mean, I haven't seen anybody better.
So after his warm-up, the young man from Indiana, ready for his routine here.
I remember seeing Jack when he first started competing at the WJF. He was like literally 2 feet tall, you know, in the beginners competition. And it's really amazing to see them just doing stuff that at that time the advanced competitors weren't even doing this stuff. You know, the advanced competitors, I believe, inspired them and motivated them to get better. But look at this, that's a 9-7-5-3-1 with the pass behind the back into single rotations. You notice he's juggling lower now. That's 1 less rotation. It's incredibly difficult to control those throws at that height, at that rotation. Right there, look at that, drop down into singles. And he's doing a 3 up 360 out of the singles, back into the singles. And to connect, look at all these connections right into flats. This is a high-scoring routine. He does have some drops, and the drops do heavily penalize you, but the start value to this must have been, you know, very close to, if not a 10.
And he's had some minor foot movement backwards, but nothing too major.
He's also landing some very difficult
tricks.
I don't know if it's enough to make up for those deductions. Look at that, 5 up 360 right into singles.
When he gets into a rhythm, he's really throwing some big tricks out there.
And there's a level of control with these throws. I'm not nervous when I'm watching him juggle. He may have some drops, but you know, there isn't anything. Well, right there, okay, there's obviously some throws that were coming back at him, and he had to move to get out of the way. But for the most part, his patterns are really clean. His throwing technique is right on. 3 up 360. Oh, 2 connected 3 up 360s. Trying to, almost, he caught one on the other end, tried to correct it, and didn't catch the correction.
Now that must be the big part of it, is seamlessly, if something were to go awry on a catch like that, to get it back into the pattern, that's got to be a very difficult thing to continue to do.
It really depends on how difficult it's going to be for you to correct it, because you may not drop, but the amount of steps that you'll take to make the correction will add up also. So, you know, you got to do the math. How many steps equals a drop? And maybe it's just better at some point to drop. But he ending very strong there with 5 club back crosses.
That was Jack Denger.
5 club back crosses, it's important to note that you know, used to be the big trick that everybody ended with. And they didn't do it for that long. They maybe barely squeezed out 5 throws and then stopped. There's those flat throws with 5 clubs.
Now, and tell us, Jason, I mean, we all, obviously the end over end is what is normally thrown, but how difficult is it to control those flat throws with the clubs that want to go end over end?
7.6 for Jack, and it's extremely difficult. Those singles, like I was saying, you have to have control over your wrist, because a lot of people will overspin because there's too much wrist added to the throws. You've got to add a lot more arm to the throw and just kind of move your arm the way you want the club to go so that you're not over-rotating the spins. And to get them high, and actually when we see Vova, you're going to see a master at club control when you see his single rotations. The connection that Jack did with the 5 clubs and singles to the 360, the 360 throws were in double rotations. Vova does them in singles, as high as doubles, but in single rotations.
So this is Daniel Brown now, next up in the short program for the clubs.
Starting with, and that's a very complicated sight and swap. It was 6-4-5. So there's one throw going straight up on both sides, and then a crossing one in the middle. There's some singles again, not quite the control that we saw from Jack. He's trying to 3 up 360 into those singles. There it is again, 3 up 360 into singles. He's got it. It's not. He pulled it in. It was a little shaky from my perspective, but no drop. There's some multiplex throws, 2 throws out of one hand at a time.
One thing I've noticed too is the youth of this competition. A lot of 14-year-old for Denger, and then we got Brown here at 18. Lauge Benjaminson, also very young. So
in 2004, our competitors were all in their 20s for the most part. And it seems as the years have passed, the skill level has gone up higher and the age has dropped down. So, you know, I don't know what they'll be doing when they're in their 20s.
I was going to say, the future of the sport looks very bright with the competitors we've seen thus far.
And then kids at home watching this now who are like 8, 9, 10 years old, if they started juggling now using this as their, their motivation, they'll even trump them, and they may find themselves in the same competition as Daniel's finding himself now in a competition with Vova, who's been in these competitions since 2004.
And you were mentioning that earlier on this week, Jason, about how, a lot of these kids grew up watching Vova, and now they're competing and they're pushing him to try and do different things.
That?
Yeah.
Your idol, your role model, and now you're competing against him.
Very similar to what when we talked about, in the world of golf, Rory McIlroy, who just won the U.S. Open, always talks about how he saw Tiger Woods win the Masters, and that inspired him to pick up a club. And it's very similar in the fact that, Vova Galchenko inspired these young people to get into the sport of juggling, and now they're trying to one-up their idol, like you said, a very daunting task.
Yeah, and you can see the influence in their technique and in the moves that they're doing. It's very, very similar. And hopefully these competitors will be motivating the next generation. Not difficult, but what he's doing here, he's connecting the multiplex throws. Let's see if we keep going here to the 6x4 pattern. There it is right there. That high crossing throw, the low non-crossing throw.
Daniel Brown with a score of 7.8.
So Daniel Brown scores a 7.8 to move himself into the lead in the club's competition short program. Lauge Benjaminson once again.
Now, Lauge is in a lot of events tonight as well. He won't be in Major League Combat. His team did not make it to the finals, but they did make it to the semifinals.
Which is interesting because the team that he is on also has Vova Galchenko. So that just shows you in Major League Combat, the individual skill doesn't carry over to the team competition.
Not entirely. You do need that. You certainly don't need to be as good as Vova to do well in Major League Combat. Look at that kick up into a 4-up multiplex. It was going for a, I believe, one of that DB97531. He's going to go for it again here. Here comes the kick up. 4-up multiplex, one high, Oh, he's just throwing one way up to the ceiling and juggling 4 for as long as he can before that high throw comes down. He's moving on to 3-up 360 into 7-4-4. High crossing, low non-crossing throws. It's a little shaky. He's moving around a little bit, but he's pulled it in.
Oh, the thing about Benjaminson, you know, is always a smile on his face. You can tell he's out there. While it may be a lot of pressure, you can tell he's having fun out there.
Yeah, there's those singles again.
And I think that helps with his confidence.
Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, even the drops, look, he just shakes it off. It's not, if it's stressing him out, I can't tell.
Exactly.
He's going to triple rotations. Not a whole lot of points for just juggling in triples. Might have been trying to set up for a different move. There's a 9-7-5-3-1. Oh. Yeah, that 9-7-5-3-1 is a completely different story when you start doing it with clubs. The amount of rotations. Look how many times that high throw spins. That's like 5 spins. Oh, he pulled it off.
Had it there for a second.
You know, it's not enough to just catch the throws of the trick. You also have to qualify the pattern afterwards. So he's going for it again, 9-7-5-3-1. Now he needs to make 10 throws. And there's
get it to count.
I think he got it. Yeah. Oh, I think he qualified before that drop. It's not the cleanest looking thing. He'll get deductions for that drop, but I think he does get the points for the 9-7-5-3-1.
So Lauge Benjaminson right there. We'll wait to get his score.
Yeah, we still have Vova Galchenko and Doug Sayers coming out here.
And really, you're going to want to stick around because Galchenko, this is his discipline, like you talked about.
Best in the world at clubs, as far as I'm concerned. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He did qualify that. He does get that.
6.0.
So Benjaminson gets a 6.0.
Yeah, a lot of drops.
Struggled that time around, but he still has the ball championship underneath his belt. So when we come back, the final 2 competitors weigh in to determine which of the competitors have the most effective combination of obsession and skill. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the 2011 World Juggling Federation 5 Club short program. We have 2 competitors left, and we're continuing with Vova Galchenko from Penza, Russia. Now, this is Vova Galchenko's best discipline.
Watch the warm-up, because this isn't something to miss either. You can see, look at these connections. 3-up 180 to 3-up 360. That's easy for Vova. There's a 5-up 360, and look at those singles. That's what I was talking about. That control. He's confident. He knows he's got it. He never uses the whole warm-up time.
Wants a little bit of applause from the audience there to get him pumped up and ready to go. And Galchenko underway.
There's his routine. 3-up 180, 3-up 360. Now notice it's a little shaky now. When he was warming up, he stayed in the center. Now he's moving a little bit to 5-up 360 into singles. Nice and smooth. Look at how those just float up. And look at that. Those 3-up, those are still in singles, just a lot higher. That's the club control I was talking about.
Yeah.
He can throw a single up to the ceiling. And to rotate that only one time with that height, that's the most amount of control you can have over the clubs.
I was going to say, compared to what we just saw from Benjaminson, where he threw it up in the air, and
it
rotated about 5 or 6
times.
times. Yes.
For that move, you could do that in singles. That would be incredibly difficult. You need those rotations in that move to help you out. Some 5-club back crosses. Tried to start in doubles and then go to triples, and now just starting with the triples. And see, he goes back into the pattern, and that's what really impresses me. Is of course you can do back crosses and stop, but to go back into any other pattern, that proves that you had perfect throws and perfect placement so that you could continue on rather than having to stop just in case.
Well, and right there, I mean, just look at the 360, and he changed the pattern with the
6x4 pattern with clubs. Incredibly difficult with clubs.
I can imagine even more difficult when you just came out of a 360 to go into that type of pattern.
Yeah, and that's what the 360s demonstrate is accurate throws. Look at that, 5-up 2-stage 720, little shaky on the re-entry. Doesn't, as we say, stick the landing on that one. You got to qualify the pattern. That's our version of sticking the landing. We're trying to get there 2-up 2-stage 720. And he's still not getting them all on the handles. There's deductions, minor deductions, but he did qualify, and now he's got it solid. And that always signifies when he's done, when he throws that high throw up there. That's just
Vova Galchenko.
A little throw of relief there. I'm done. Although I have seen people drop that last throw. There's deductions. There's no points for that.
Now, I noticed in his routine there were some times where you even mentioned it, Jason, where the club wasn't landing in his hand exactly where he wanted it, but he's able to keep the pattern going and make the adjustments on the fly, which was very difficult. And to the untrained eye, you may not even have noticed.
Right, exactly. I can tell because I've been watching this for years. But yeah, Vova is one of
8.95.
8.95. Vova is one of the best at club corrections. When you see jugglers passing with each other, he can correct anything. So if you're throwing him garbage, he will return that garbage, he will recycle it, and deliver it back to you in drinkable plastic format. You know, and that's why we were seeing him continue on with that two-stage 720. He corrected and continued on. But there are minor deductions for catching on the end you did not intend to catch it on.
But Galchenko has really put himself way ahead in front of Daniel Brown. Daniel Brown had a 7.8, wasn't in first, but Galchenko 8.95. Now Doug Sayers.
Now, Doug has a history of train wreck club routines, and I've seen this routine. I'm hoping he pulls it off perfectly. So far, he looks smooth, controlled, relaxed. Yeah, this looks good. There's that 3-up out of singles, 360 that Jack Denger did in double rotations of the club. Now going to the 6x4. Now watch this transition here. Right into back crosses from the 6x. Yeah, I was worried about that because that's incredibly difficult. That's the first time I've ever seen that done. Hope he tries it again here. 6x4. You notice he has to throw a couple of them a little higher. They're coming up, well.
Trying to work up for something big right there.
Yeah,
like you said, a trick of that magnitude. Obviously, everything's got to be going just perfectly right in order to pull it off.
Yeah, there's the high throws and a couple of back crosses. And it's just best to move on at this point. There comes a point where if you're getting deductions for those aborts, yeah, just move on to what you're going to connect to. He doesn't get the connection bonus. That's what Vova tried to do right there, going from back crosses and double rotations, connecting that to triples. And he'll probably just go for triples here to save time. Yeah, there he goes in triples.
One thing to notice, too, that you talked about, Jason, a lot of times people say the drop and they think that they haven't caught it correctly. A lot of times that's not the case when it comes to the drop. It's the transfer as they're going sometimes is the problem more so than the catch.
Right, yeah. We have seen some competitors who actually drop before they throw. And that's just a function of moving your arm too soon before the ball is actually, you know, in your grip. And that's a function of rushing.
Trying to get all the requirements in within the allotted time.
Right. And just in general, when you know the adrenaline is flowing, you tend to just juggle differently. If you don't have experience competing, you don't know how to control your nerves, then that'll happen. You'll just, instead of throwing up, you just slam the ball down to the ground.
Looking at a replay of a Doug Sayers routine. Tried some very difficult tricks, and you said towards the end he may have been rushing because of the fact he was trying to do that crossover with behind the back there, and he kind of tried that 2 or 3 different times.
Score of 9.0.
9.0 for Doug Sayers, and I do believe that may have given Doug Sayers the championship right there. So with the pressure on, after Vova Galchenko posted an 8.95, Doug Sayers comes from behind and ends up taking the title. So Doug Sayers finishes first in clubs, Vova Galchenko second, and Daniel Brown with a 7.8 ends up finishing in third place. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the final results from the 2011 World Juggling Federation 5-Club Short Program. This has been Mike Wimmacher and Jason Garfield. We thank you all for watching. After seeing these amazing athletes in competition, it's normal to feel compelled to learn how to juggle. So if you find you've been afflicted with this fixation, go to the WJFstore.com, and there you'll find low-cost solutions for learning how to juggle. Really, the basics are fairly easy. You should be juggling within an hour after getting this starter kit. But don't go anywhere, because coming up next on ESPN 3 is the World Juggling Federation Freestyle Battle. The most risky juggling moves you'll ever see. We threw all the rules out the window but 2 for this event, and it's coming up next. This has been a production of the World Juggling Federation in association with ESPN Incorporated.